the mystery that is Tyler Johnson. I want to start off. I'm curious. So like a lot of us pipers, probably a lot of people in any sort of special interest niche group, a lot of us have like a bagpiping email address, that we like
Yes.
use for piping stuff. That, or it's just our general email that we made when we were teenagers and we were all hyped about piping, whatever it is. And yours has something to do with green piper or something like that.
Yeah, mine is Green Piper 07.
So what's the story behind
So,
that?
well, see, the funny thing is now I shy away from using it because green and pipe have like two different, has a completely different association now compared to when I created it.
Yeah.
So it's not one I really share, but I've had it for so long that I've just held on to it. So yeah, Green Piper because I play the bagpipes, and green because that was my favorite color when I set up the email address.
Yeah. Oh, and,
And
and don't feel bad about it. As far as I can tell, that is also common amongst all of us, that all of us made these names or email addresses and we regretted it later, but it was too late.
yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. So that's, I mean, really nothing more to it than that. It was just like, yeah, I love piping and I love green,
yeah.
and everything else that was obvious and easy to choose was already taken by somebody else. So
Yeah.
that's the story behind that one.
Well, there you go. So we maybe shouldn't put out the call for everybody in Utah when they see you to be like, "Hey, Green Piper."
Well, I don't know. I'm not too worried about my employment prospects and
Have you been
that kind
called
of
worse
stuff they're gonna
things? So
get.
it'd be
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. They're as long as you're not swearing at me too much, I'll take it.
Yeah. So what about the I don't. This could sound awkward, so I got to clarify. You have a tattoo that's on your arm, so it's not like I know about any secret tattoos or anything like that. But you've got a piping inspired tattoo as well. Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, a little bit. Um, I guess the short story of this one, it's actually not a piping inspired tattoo, crazy enough.
Well,
You'd
I
think
thought it
so
was
because
a piper.
it's a guy in a kilt and he's wearing a Prince Charlie jacket.
I guess I
Um,
only have like a vague, I don't like see you every day or anything. So I
yeah,
was
yeah.
kind of imagining that it was a piper like walking into some trees or something, but maybe I just saw it in
Yeah,
passing.
like in your mind, exactly. And having not knowing the backstory behind it, anybody would think it's a piper just because it's, I'm into piping and
Yeah.
dude wearing a kilt walking in the trees like you mentioned. But yeah, the tattoo is actually a picture that I took that I had an artist put onto my arm. It was when I was young in Scotland for a scout camp actually, and it's on the grounds of Blair Castle, and you can actually like pull it up on Google Earth or Google Maps, whatever they call it now, do the street view of the road walking up to the castle, and it's just lined by these giant trees.
Mm.
And the picture is actually my best friend,
Oh,
um,
gotcha.
and we were in Scotland at Blair Castle for a scout camp actually, and he was walking down the road from Blair Castle, and you can check this out on Google Maps, but the street is just lined with these giant trees. And the reason I turned it into a tattoo was for several reasons. One of them was, of course, because of just the big part that piping and the music has played in my life, and the part that kind of that whole experience has played in my life at that point as well. So um, just a constant reminder to me, um, just that experience and kind of my mindset and how I envisioned the world at that point, and then of course just the connection to the Scottish music as well.
Yeah. I've never heard of like scouting is big here where we live. I've never heard of someone going to Scotland for a Scot camp or for a scout camp. What was a Scot camp? Now that's what they should have called it. That's a marketing
Exactly.
opportunity. What was that all about? What was that like? Was that like one of the jamborees or something like that?
Yeah, actually, it was really random how I got hooked up with it because it wasn't like my local scout group or anything that went, but I was at a local scout jamboree here when I was 13 or 14, had to be 13.
Wait, which one?
And
Which one was it, Tyler? Was it the one that was out in the middle of a cow field?
no, it was on a much smaller scale. It was like at Barnes Park in Kaysville,
Gotcha.
and it was for a few hours one Saturday. And
Because I was
I,
a scout as a kid too.
oh yeah,
Mostly I was obliged to be. Honestly, my parents were going to let me get my driver's license if I wasn't an Eagle Scout. But I was just
yeah.
we might have gone to some of the same events and not known each other yet. That's all.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure we did. But yeah, this one was. on a much smaller scale. Anyways, there was this guy there named Pat Riley, and he had a booth set up, and he was wearing a kilt, and for all I knew, he was a Scottish guy standing there, you know.
Yeah.
So we went over to talk to him, and turns out, hey, yeah, we've got the scout camp that goes on every 2 years on the grounds of the Blair Castle.
Wow, that's really
And
cool.
so, anyways, ended up working and earning the money to go, and is a month-long trip. The scout camp over there is like 10 days long, and it's international, you know, so you've got scouts from all over the world. In most parts of the world, the scouts are inclusive of boys and girls. So that was my first experience, like walking into this, and there's like girls in the tent right next to you or
Yeah,
whatever, you know.
coming from the
And they're
BSA, you're like, wait a second, this is
yeah,
not
yeah.
allowed.
It just seems so odd, but I mean, it was also no big deal at the same
Yeah.
time, you know, lots of fun. But anyways, at the end of the camp,
Well, let's be honest, Tyler. It was a lot more fun, right?
it could have been for some. I was too young to really get it at that
I
point.
see, I see.
Um, but yeah, so at the end of the camp, then you go home with a Scottish host family for another 5 days or something
Oh
like that.
wow.
So it's incredible. So anytime I come across somebody that asks about that experience, because they still do, they've been doing it for, well, I don't know how long, but um, every once in a while I'll have somebody reach out to me and say, hey, I heard you went to this,
Oh
and just,
sure, yeah.
but man, if any kid ever got a chance to go to that, do whatever it takes, sell whatever organs you need to, and do it. It was
The
incredible.
Girl Scouts sell cookies here in the U.S., but the Boy Scouts they'll sell a
Well,
kidney.
yeah,
And the
absolutely.
great thing, if they've got the right merit badges, they can extract it and sew it up afterward as well, all by themselves.
Hey,
So
now that's as efficient as you can get.
yeah, no, it's funny because like I don't know if it's only me that has this idea, but like of course like growing up and participating in the Boy Scouts of America specifically, it feels like a very American institution. But one must remember if it started in the UK, if I'm not
Oh yeah.
mistaken, and it is an international thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's just the scouts everywhere else.
Yeah,
Well, I shan't say everywhere else, but many other places
yeah.
throughout the world, it's just the scouts.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's
Well, that's really
yeah.
cool. That's really cool. So when you walked up to this, for all you knew, a Scotsman at this Scout jamboree, were you at that time already enthusiastic about Scotland, about bagpipes? Like, where did that start for you? When did you first encounter bagpipes? When did you first think maybe I'll play them? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I I couldn't tell you where Scotland was at that point.
Ah, yeah.
Um, I'd seen pictures and encyclopedias of people wearing kilts and playing bagpipes and that kind of stuff, but outside of that, I really had no clue. And so even when I was like, yeah, Scotland, that sounds nice, I had no idea where it was or really what it was about.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's actually where my connection to the music started, was when I went over there.
Did you
And
hear pipes live while you were there, or was it just
I
kind of in the
I
ambience?
did, yeah. So there were some, Scottish scouts that played the pipes, just a couple here and there. And then up at the castle, there was there was a piper every day that would go out and just kind of like walk in front of the castle and play at a certain time.
I want that
And
job, man.
oh, no kidding, huh? So those were my first kind of experiences hearing the bagpipes in person, and I was just blown away.
Yeah, what a
Um,
setting to encounter them in. That's amazing.
yeah, yeah, and then especially being that young and having those kind of new experiences, I mean, and connected to the music. I mean, that's kind of what got me hooked. So I came home from that, and it was in the summer, and just mentioned to my parents like, oh, it would be cool to learn the bagpipes one day, whatever, just like it would be cool to do anything when you're a kid. You have all these cool ideas of hobbies and such, and most
Oh
of them just
yeah.
fade away. But
But at
um,
that point, like everything is a possibility.
oh yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
anyways, for my birthday that year, my parents got me one of those learn how to play bagpipes kits, and it's like you've probably seen it. It's in this red box, this red rectangular box
Yeah.
with a piper on the front. It's got a little rosewood practice chanter in it, and a book to teach yourself how to play the bagpipes, of course, which what else do you need?
Right. That's all you
And
need. That's everybody will tell you. Everybody in the piping world will tell you that's how you should start. That's the best way to start for sure.
oh, absolutely.
Teach yourself on a splintery rosewood practice chanter.
And the funny thing too is this, it really wasn't that long ago, but even though the internet wasn't around or was around, it wasn't really, there wasn't a whole lot of easily accessible information about piping. There wasn't
Yeah,
YouTube and all
there
this kind
probably
of
wasn't
stuff.
a Piper's Dojo yet or anything like that, right?
No, exactly. So for all I knew, this was what you did. This is how you
Yeah.
learned. So I'm trying to follow the little teach yourself book, and I actually learned with my right hand on top.
How was
Um,
that, man?
for all I knew, that's what you did.
Yeah.
And then
We should be inclusive for all the lefties out there. It's okay. Go ahead and play weird. I
you're
mean, you mess
you're doing a
everything up. You mess up the
yeah
circle. You mess up mass bands, but fine. Go ahead.
you're doing it wrong, but we'll put up with it.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding. But I somehow came across a community class that Ross and Justin were teaching.
So was
Um,
this pre-Wasatch District or was this?
yeah, yeah, it
Gotcha.
was pre-Wasatch District, so it was still Utah Pipe Band at the time, and I remember it was like $80 for an 8-week course, and in my mind at that time, because I was 15 years old or something, $80 is a lot of money.
Right.
So um, I took the class, I went down, and they held the community class right after the Utah Pipe Band practice that they did at Bountiful High School. And so I showed up early, right at the tail end of their practice, and I saw all these guys standing outside playing, or guys and girls, of course, playing the pipes, and I was just blown away. Just that
Yeah.
first band setting of people getting together and jamming, and it was just like, oh my gosh,
Great that you
this
showed
is
up
the
for the
coolest
ending
thing.
it too, because like by then they're all warmed up and tuned and everything. Well, hopefully anyway, right? Reasonably
Right.
tuned.
For all I knew, they were the best in the world,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, just kind of stuck with it from there. So those guys are the ones that really got me set on the right path as far as putting my left hand on top. and
Right. What was that
and
like to have to relearn the other way around?
well, I wasn't that proficient yet. So
Yeah.
although I'd built some weird habits, I mean, none of the habits that I built were useful anyways.
I gotcha. I mean, like at
Um,
that point, were you mostly like playing maybe the scale, but you hadn't like started doing like D throws with the wrong hand or anything like that?
right. Because in that instruction book, they don't even have any embellishments aside from like G grace notes, from what I remember.
Oh, I see.
So I'd learned to play very basic versions of like Scotland the Brave or what have you, and it's just only a couple G grace notes throughout the tune, and that was all I knew.
Interesting. Interesting. That story, you'd mentioned that to me once. I don't remember what the context was, probably like a branch meeting or something. And that has come back to my mind a few times because as we've been trying to put together materials at our free class at Garden Valley's free class down further south, we've had a few people go through who have a really hard time looking at a diagram the way it usually is, where it's like a
Uh,
piper facing you.
uh-huh.
And we found that if we just take the graphic and flip it around upside down, for some people, that's a way easier way to learn because they feel like their hands need to go backward if it's a mirror image. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And I wonder to what degree like there's just your brain works one way or the other, and it's kind of maybe there's something in your DNA that decides which one kind of works best for you.
I know, I have no clue, but that makes a lot of sense that yeah, flipping that image would be extremely helpful.
Yeah, so that like the bottom of the chanter is at the top, but you're looking at it, the way you're looking down at it, it actually matches your fingers instead of mirroring you back.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well,
No,
anyway, that's a tangent. Sorry. Let's not get distracted from the real focus here, which is you.
no,
So
to be fair though, like honestly, I think the community classes you guys put on are incredible. I mean, it's one of those things where kind of like the story that Larry was telling right after Braveheart came out, and all these
yeah,
people were
yeah.
just fired up and want to learn bagpipes. And he started off with 7 people around the table, and then it faded out to 5, and then finally just one.
Right.
Um, and for all you think, I mean, it's this obscure instrument, anyways, and definitely not an easy one to learn or master by any means. But you never know like what kind of impact it's going to have. Like you mentioned, that one student came back and was registering her son to play and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So um, it's just very cool.
Yeah. Well, Thank you. Go on. Praise everything that we do. Tell me more, Tyler. So what about like other stuff around bagpipes? Have you ever tried your hand at drumming or drum majoring, or are you interested in these things, or are you just like really happy to be a Highland piper?
You know, I love the pipes. I think if I was to branch out, I would love to do some snare drumming. Um, I've never actually tried it. Don't really have any current skills to back it up, but I think that would be something awesome just to learn some rudimentary stuff and maybe progress a little bit from there. Um, and then of course, you know, one more of those things like I was mentioning before, one of these dreams I have in my mind, it would be so cool when I grow up to learn how to play the uilleann pipes or
Oh, I'm with you, man.
you know, things like
Absolutely.
that. I've gotten into small piping quite a bit and love that. But
Yeah, you are. I was surprised to find out that you had also been following the Lindsay system chanter for small pipes, and you got a print and play chanter printed up for yourself.
I did.
Have you messed with that very much?
Uh, I have. Unfortunately, I've been more frustrated with it than
Yeah,
loving it.
I'm having a similar similar experience.
Tried several reads and all sorts of things, and it's I can get it to sound okay, but not the way I prefer yet. Which,
I suspect that, of course, the ones that you have like a pipe maker make probably play a little easier and stuff.
oh yeah, oh I'm sure, and I'd imagine that his actual like Lindsay chanter is incredible.
Yeah.
But I don't
The print
really
and
want to
play, of
drop.
course, is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, and it's a easier way to kind of get your head around the extended octave or extended range and all that kind of stuff without dropping $400 on a new chanter for your small
Right.
pipes.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, though, what kind of small pipes do you have, and also what kind of Highland pipes do you have?
So my small pipes are they're McCallum's. They're the Fred Morrison.
Ooh, those
Um,
are like my impression at least is that these are kind of the holy grail right now. Like those, I love listening to Fred Morrison play them in his YouTube demos and stuff. But like these seem nice. These seem really nice.
I really like them. In fact, so I actually bought these ones from Fred directly.
Whoa,
Uh,
wait,
like
like you did you meet the man?
yeah, yeah.
What?
So I went to I've gone to Winter Storm a couple times out in Kansas City,
Yeah,
and
jealous. Well, hey, we should start a local event, a competing event, and we'll call it Desert Storm here in Utah. Wouldn't that be awesome?
man, I think it's a keyword that we'd be able to overtake pretty quickly, you know.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. You were in Winter Storm though.
Yeah, so Fred's an instructor out there for small piping pretty regularly, I guess, which I didn't realize. I went out there and saw that he was on the roster for people teaching, and I was like, oh
Oh,
man,
so
I've
it's just
watched
like a
all of his
pleasant
videos.
surprise, huh?
Yeah, I was like, man, I've watched all of his videos. I don't even own a set of small pipes, but I got to meet Fred, you know? So I go to his class, and it was just very laid back. Most everybody in there had a set of small pipes, whatever make. Um, and he would just kind of talk them through like the philosophy of small piping and all this kind of stuff, and it was really cool. Anyways, at the end of the class, I walked up to him and I was like, "Hey, I actually don't have a set of small pipes, and I'm really interested in getting some. Like, would you happen to be selling any that you have with them or I have with you?" And he said, "Actually, yeah, I probably could sell these, but let me contact my wife and I can let you know what the price would be if or, you know if it's possible or whatever."
Yeah.
So, anyways, he told me, and it was way cheaper than I could have gotten them through
Yeah.
any other channel. When
Wait,
I say
like
way
was it
cheap,
like the set that he was playing for
yeah,
the
yeah.
what?
So, and I don't know like his history with them. I don't I don't think they
But
were
he'd
like
at least been
his
playing them there
pipes.
that day, right?
Yeah, yeah,
At
yeah,
least he's touched them.
yeah.
Which I guess
So,
I guess he sets all of the sets up, right? But like he was sitting there in front of you playing them like that. That does make him special. That's pretty cool.
yeah, it was pretty no, for me, like big time fangirl moment that I was just trying to play really low key, like, okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be cool to get them, you know, if you could or whatever.
You didn't say
Um,
anything weird like I'm never gonna wash the blowpipe or anything like that.
no, and actually their bellows blown, thank
Oh,
goodness, because
okay, okay.
yeah, I can't get behind the mouth blown ones, you know, from somebody else. So,
Yeah.
anyways, go back to his class the next day. He said, come back come back tomorrow, and I'll let you know what I find out. So I came back, and he said, yeah, I can sell them too. However, I can't give you the bellows. The bellows are mine.
Gotcha.
Um, So I was like, okay, that's fair. And I had no idea really how important it was to have Like how hard it was to get bellows set up for just you, once you
You're
get them
right.
broken in, it's
Yeah.
I had no clue. So I was just stoked. So I bought them. I had no business buying them at the time either, but I had just gotten divorced and I was like, man, I've been wanting these for years. I'm gonna buy them. I don't even
It
care.
was one of those like,
It was
this is for me moments.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was my divorce gift to myself.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the story of my Callum um, Fred Morrison pipes. So I still have them, still play them a lot, and yeah, they've been a blast.
Hey, and you're a solid player. I don't ask you this in any way to disparage your playing, but I do wonder, like, do you ever like look at this set of pipes and just remember seeing Fred Morrison play them and be like, I know you're capable of so much more, pipes.
Oh
Please
my
stick with
gosh,
me. Don't give up on me yet, pipes.
it's it's definitely a conversation I'm going to start having more often with them,
Yeah.
uh, because man, it's like in my mind, I feel like I always have so far to go between where I'm at and where I'd like to be with my playing.
Yeah.
And yeah, no matter who's playing what pipes or whatever, I feel like it's just there's always room for improvement. And it's always just like, man, I wish I could just play like Alan Tully. I wish I could play like Fred Morrison. I wish I could
Oh
play like,
yeah.
fill in the blank. It's like, oh
Right.
man, there's so many things that I just uh, would love to be able to replicate one day.
Yeah, I suspect that it's similar with pretty much any interest that like there's an infinite depth to which you could go. Like you never actually master a thing. But I don't know. So maybe just because we're in this, it does seem to me like piping is particularly that way. Like you think you've mastered it when you get the common marches down, but then it's like, oh, but now I can learn about like the nuances of like cane drone reeds, and then it's like this whole other world of like
Oh
small
man.
pipes, and then like the question of like density of wood, and just like there is no end to like the little things you can change about your finger work and about your breath work and about the instrument itself. It's just it's infinitely complex and interesting, and if you can love the journey, that's wonderful.
Oh yeah.
But if you have
Yeah.
any expectation that you're gonna like master it at some point, you're probably gonna live disappointed your entire life.
So true. So true. More important just to have fun with it.
Yeah. And what about your Highland pipes? Have you changed sets since you first got your first set, or have you
Uh,
kept the
n-
same set?
no, so it's the original set I've had. Obviously I've swapped out reeds and bags and that kind of stuff, but the sticks and stocks are the same. They're McClellan's. Um, and going back to before when you asked about the class, was it Utah Pipe Band at that time and everything? Like I remember putting in my order for my pipes, um, and Roddy McClellan, at the time, once again, he had a website, just like, anybody had a website at that time, and there just wasn't a whole lot of information there,
Yeah.
especially for somebody that was brand new to bagpiping. I didn't really know what mounts and ferrules and combing and beating and all these kind of things were. So
Yeah.
um, I said, I think these woods look kind of cool, and yeah, I kind of have this kind of budget. And I called him up and placed the order, and he said, okay, so what band are you playing with? And I told him Utah Pipe Band, and I remember that like distinctly, for some reason.
Hmm.
But by the time I got the pipes, uh, Utah Pipe Band, or they're still Utah Pipe Band, but all of a sudden the guys that I had been playing with were now playing in a different band called Wasatch and District, and I had no idea what actually happened. I thought they just changed their name
Yeah.
because it was mostly the same people. So I just kind of stuck with the same people that I'd started with ever since.
Yeah. Which I'd imagine, like, I've talked with a few people before about how, like, I don't know if it's unique to our geographical area, but it does seem like there's a kind of tribalism that happens between pipe bands, which
Yeah.
is unfortunate. And I also think that I feel like maybe I'm just differently aware of it now, but I feel like it was worse a few years ago, like, by which I mean like 15, 20 years ago.
Right, right. I think you're right about that, and I agree with that as well. I mean, tribalism is going to happen to an extent.
Especially on
It's
competition day, right? It's like, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead,
yeah.
be fierce and fight for your team.
Absolutely, absolutely. But at the same time, I feel like, and I think I am coming from a similar type view as you, James. Like where several years ago, maybe it was a different way, but it just seems like the camaraderie in the Utah piping and drumming scene is grown.
Yeah.
Um, it seems like there's a lot of like mingling and friendships being built across different bands, between different bands and such, which is really cool.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. That's a beautiful vision. I would love for that to be more and more the case all the time. Yeah, and I wonder, and I don't feel like you have to comment on it if it makes you, puts you in any sort of awkward spot. But I know that like when we started Garden Valley Pipe Band, there has been some sort of sometimes unspoken awkwardness because White Peaks Centennial Pipe Band already existed, and a lot of players from White Peaks Centennial Pipe Band started playing with Garden Valley Pipe Band, and like I even called the pipe major there, Don Smith, a couple times on the phone just to basically apologize and just be like, this is kind of awkward, like we don't want to be setting up a rivalry here or any sort of animosity. It's just another pipe band, more geographically convenient. Stuff like that. And I'd imagine that maybe that split that kind of happens, like from Utah Pipe Band to Wasatch District, like maybe it simply takes 10 or 15 years for any hurt feelings to heal and for things to get more comfortable. Maybe that just goes with it. You just have to deal with it. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, time definitely does quite a bit to change the way you view things, anyways,
Yeah.
regardless of the situation. Um, but also, you have so many new people coming in on both sides to where none of them care. Yeah,
Right. They weren't there 15 years
it's
ago
like
when the split
I don't.
happened, right? It's just
It's
like, yeah.
yeah, and it's like, okay, well, that's unfortunate, but let's play music.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who.
That infusion of new blood makes it so that the old any old like grudges and stuff start to become watered down and eventually disappear.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So have you made it back to Scotland in any capacity since that trip when you were a kid?
Um, yeah, I traveled there. I traveled there once. My family was going on a vacation to Ireland, and I went over early to Scotland just to kick around for a couple days, and then flew over and met them in Ireland for their vacation.
Mm,
So that's been the only time. We were planning actually to go in 2020.
ah,
My wife and I, anyways, because my
yeah.
sister and her husband are stationed in Germany. He's in the army.
Oh, gotcha.
So we were going to go visit them, and I was like, man, flights from Munich to Edinburgh are like $86.
Oh, yeah. You'd be
So
you'd be losing money if you didn't take that up
yeah,
if you
yeah.
did.
So I was like, oh man, and I built it up too. I was telling my wife everything. You're gonna love this and that, and getting my sister and her husband in on it, and then they closed the borders and all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff. So that didn't happen.
Rough year for travel. Well, hopefully again in future, and
Oh yeah,
not
yeah,
too
yeah.
distant future. Now I know that you've been playing with Utah Pipe Band and then Wasatch District Pipe Band. You're also a soloist. I don't mean this in any way to be disparaging to any other great. Well, what I mean is I don't mean this to make me sound pompous because it's not as if you're the only thing that was standing in my way. But I was kind of excited for you, but also for me when you moved from grade 3 soloing to grade 2, just because I kind of thought, oh, maybe now I have a chance to place, like, in
Oh
fact, the
man.
first time that I placed in a grade 3 competition, if I'm not mistaken, was the very year that you started soloing in grade 2. And I do think there was a direct correlation.
No. Well, uh, I doubt it. Here's why. You're in soloing, especially. Well, it's the same in bands. You can look at any level, and even if you expect to do very well at a on a certain day, you still have the possibility of scratching. Like I kick myself so many times over some competitions where I showed up thinking like, okay, I've got this. I've been practicing it flawlessly, or flawlessly to the level that I felt like I needed to
Yeah,
perform.
like grade 3 flawless, whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and get up to the competition, warm up, tune up, sounding great, and as soon as I start into the tune, lose it.
Yeah.
Lose exactly, and it's just like, oh crap.
Your
And
F sounds like an E, or your drones are way out, or something
yeah,
crazy is
or
happening.
just play the completely
Play the wrong tune or
wrong
something.
tune and
Yeah.
just stop and look at the judge, and they're looking at me because they know exactly what happened, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, I can still play my tunes for you. They're like, yeah, you can. But there goes, but that's the way it is. I so although I kind of appreciate that kind of like comment, because I definitely have those kind of people, in my own grade level now, where it's like, okay, I don't want to go against this
Right.
guy or
Oh,
that
is
guy
that
or
guy
this girl
playing
or
right
that
after
girl.
me?
Yeah,
Dagnabbit.
it's like, ah, crap, I don't want to go out to this California games because this guy's going to be there.
Right.
Or not because I don't like him, but it's because like I want to feel like I did better than I
Yeah.
may have.
Yeah.
Um, but there's just there are so many variable things that could go on that, yeah, you just show up and do your best, and for all you know, you could come out on top or better than you planned on.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just about fun, anyways. Fun
That's right.
progression.
That's right. It's all about fun, setting those personal records and stuff like that. And it's not in any way like suggesting that someone's skill isn't valuable or the hard work they put into it. But there,
Oh
like,
no.
along with skill and hard work, there is also a lot of variables like luck. Whether the judges' preference for different tune choices, all kinds of stuff can factor into it.
Oh yeah, your own mindset for the day and what have you.
Yeah.
But man, I like I've got great respect for anybody that steps into solos for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Just
At any
because
level.
at any level, holy smokes, because it's something else. It's always fun. It's always fun to play with a band, and there's plenty of stress and everything else that goes along with competition in the band level. But when it's only you, I don't care who you are. Like that says something. Is step in and just give it what you got and see how you stack up.
Yeah. Yeah, I've often thought that like bagpipes musically are like the most naked instrument in the world, just because. And again, this is coming from, of course, my niche perspective. That this is the sphere that we occupy. But it's so loud. You've got to have multiple things in tune with each other. It's just like if you're playing bagpipes by yourself, there's no covering up or hiding any mistakes that you make, whether those are mistakes in tuning when you're getting ready or mistakes in execution when you're playing.
Oh yeah.
So when you're willing to step in front of somebody who knows what they're talking about and they're there to judge you, and you're like, here I am, I'm going to do this. It takes a lot of personal work, a lot of bravery really, to be willing to do it. And that's not meant to be a pat on my own back, but just like,
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't
No,
want anybody to think, oh, I'm not good enough to solo yet. Like, no, if you're brave enough to do it, you should do it, and you get respect just for doing it.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, I mean, the interaction and such you get with the judges, and once again, that camaraderie that you get with, instead of like bumping the guy next to you in the circle and be like, "Hey, that was a heck of a run," then it's talking to other people in your competition pool
Yeah,
and like,
yeah,
"Oh man, you sounded really good today," or whatever the case is. It's just you're all mingling, kind of watching each other and going to the results together, and it's and most of the time you're not associated with the other person at all, aside from being in the same competition pool.
yeah. It's kind of like you're competing against each other, but you're more like in this together, right?
Oh yeah.
It's more a community than a competitive kind of thing, really.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And as cool as it might feel to, um, place in a certain way or whatever, like you said, it is that camaraderie. Like everybody knows the nerves that come along with it, and especially when you're playing in front of, say, like I don't know, like Richard Parks or
Mhm.
Jack Lee or somebody like that, and
Yeah,
it's just you and them, and they know.
yeah. They know better than you know what you just messed up. They might notice things that you messed up that you don't even know you messed up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Did you, when you went back over to Scotland, did you take your pipes with you? Did you bust your pipes out?
No, I didn't actually, just because
Hey,
I,
next time. Next time
I
Wasatch goes
know.
to the Worlds, right? Then you'll, of course.
Right. I know. I just get so nervous like traveling outside of the country with them. Just because of the whole different woods things and
Yeah,
all
that's
that kind of
true.
stuff.
Yeah.
So,
You imagine that like you get them out at the humid sea level coast or something, and they'll just like explode in your hands.
yeah, or even I'm just afraid of them getting confiscated or something,
Right.
because
That's
they're like,
right. The
oh, these
blacklisting
definitely look like
it.
they're an endangered species. So,
Right.
and I just happened to not get my paper. I don't know. Maybe it's just overthinking it because people travel with them all the time, but I just never have outside of the country.
I've traveled with my small pipes quite a bit in the country. Just when I have to travel for work or something, I'll take my small pipes so I can play them in the hotel room and stuff. And they always get searched every single
Oh,
time.
serious?
Yeah, they always have the little tag inside that they were, that they were withheld and searched. And in fact, I even when Zach and Kevin and I were working on trying to figure out how to 3D print small pipes, I bought some plans from a pipe maker who was no longer doing business, named Simon Hope, over in
Uh-huh.
Scotland. And so he would sell these profiles so you could turn your own pipes. And we just wanted to buy them so we would have dimensions to put into CAD to print them.
All right.
And so the way he sold them though is he'd print them off on big, true to scale sheets of paper and laminate them and mail them to you. And the first time he tried to mail them to me, they got flagged as potentially dangerous, like as if they were the plans to make a pipe bomb or something. And
Oh my
they
gosh.
didn't make it out of the country, and so he had to resend them with like a declaration on them.
I could see that happening. I
Yeah,
could totally see that happening.
so
Hey,
pipes don't travel well.
I just remembered something I needed to ask you about while we're on
Yeah,
this.
what's up?
So, well, a couple things like because I see the stuff that you post on social media, either whether it's on your personal profile or the heritage piping and that kind of stuff.
You're making me blush. You know my bagpiping name, the heritage bagpiping thing.
Oh man, no,
Shucks.
I love the stuff you put out. I think it's cool that you like make the videos and get everything out there. It's just it's something that where in my mind it's like, man, that would be really cool to do. But for example, like Tim Cummings, like I had no idea that you had been in communication with him and had like such a love for his music and that kind of stuff. Like when I think you just posted a tune and said, hey, this is by, this was composed or arranged by Tim Cummings. And I was like, no way.
Oh, I'm sure I did, because his is the music I play. Basically, he's like my bagpipe spirit guide.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. So, I don't even really know him that. I mean, I've never met him. I've talked to him on the phone once because I had a book that I ordered from him that seemed to have got lost in the mail.
Oh, really?
But,
So you'd found his stuff too, huh?
But that was it. Like the Appalachian music collection
Yeah.
is like
That's
the one.
so great, man.
So I ordered that book from him because I saw one of his videos on YouTube and I was like, oh man, it was the Man of Constant Sorrow.
Yes. Oh,
And
yeah, one of my favorites. Absolutely, yeah.
and I was just like, because I loved that tune and I'd heard it on Oh Brother Where Art Thou in like guitar form, And when I saw him playing it on the pipes, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to like get my hands on some of that music, whether it's that or just more of that style,
Yeah.
So tracked him down, tracked down the music, tracked down his website, and at that point the book wasn't being produced.
Gotcha.
And so I was just like scouring eBay and anything else to try to find this stuff. Anyways, it was finally back in print. And then around the same kind of time, I saw you posting videos about his music, and I was like, no way, like Tim Cummings, like the music. So I was like super psyched about it. And then even above and beyond that, this one's off in the weeds, but your throat singing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always once again, just going down the rabbit hole on YouTube of different musicians and stuff, I came across that somehow, and I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was like, that would probably be a cool thing to learn to do while you're piping.
Yeah,
like
man.
That'd be a cool accompaniment type
It's another
thing.
drone, heck yeah.
Yeah, so never ever tried it, but when I saw you like post that video of it, I was like, you've got to be joking. So it just seemed
are we
like
the same person? What's going on?
It's like we had a couple like convergences of a couple interests that were, I mean, one of them's piping specific, of course, but one of them was like off in the weeds a bit. But
well, that's how I was pleasantly surprised to find you in the Donald Lindsay 3D printed in the Lindsay System chanter circles as well. It's like, look at this, another guy interested in that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Maybe we'll have to get together.
Bro.
And I know. It's too bad we're a ways away.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool to get together and jam some things out sometimes.
Heck yeah. Get some more, especially some small pipe and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So when you're playing small pipes or big pipes or practice chanter or whatever it is, who usually gets to listen to you? Or has to listen to you?
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Most of the time, in the past several months, I definitely haven't played my Highland pipes as much as I've needed to.
Oh, that's probably most of us.
Yeah, it's just been, yeah. So my small pipes and my practice chanter and stuff, I break out often, and it's always my wife and my new little girl that get to listen to it. I'm determined to make her a piper.
Yeah. How is she? Does she cry when you break them out, or does it seem to be going well so far?
No, she loves music.
That's
so
good.
yeah. So whether it's the small pipes or just playing something on, on the computer or whatever. She loves music, so I have high hopes.
And does your wife put up with it, or was she like when you first met, was she like really psyched that you were a piper?
Well, she didn't really know enough about piping and really what that entailed. I think it was just like, oh yeah, that's kind of a quirky, cool hobby, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think it really hit her as far as like how involved it can be until she showed up to the first Highland Games here in Utah.
Yeah.
Her first Highland Games here in, was, here were the Utah Games, and she was just like, oh my gosh, like this
There are
is
a
a
lot of
pretty,
people here. Do other
yeah,
people
like
do this?
this is a pretty big deal to you, isn't it? It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. Did you have to start going through like the slow realization that I think many pipers' spouses go through to realize like, oh, they're going to spend a lot of time on this. Oh, they're going to spend a lot of money on this. Oh, I have to come with them to these events.
I know, and she really is such a good sport. I think she likes the music most of the time. She always makes fun of me like playing P-Brooks or like singing P-Brooks.
Yeah.
Um, but which is fine, obviously. But I think overall she enjoys it, and I'm just lucky to have such a supportive person in my life, around it. So whether she wants to go to the games or just comes because I'm there, either way, it's fun.
Yeah. So now you mentioned you sing Pibrook. Have you been learning the secret language?
The I've tried, but I'm a little too self-conscious about it is the problem because
You're not gonna give me a live rendering of
oh
Lord Lovett's Lament or
heck
something
no.
right now?
Oh heck no. The especially because I know I'd slaughter it because I've spoken English my whole life in Utah and have no real
Maybe that make it
exposure to
exotic,
Gaelic.
right? Maybe you'd
Yeah.
be an exotic accent on the Gaelic, huh?
That's for some reason I feel like it wouldn't have the same effect as somebody with a British accent here in
Yeah, it
America.
might not
It's
be exotic at all, huh?
yeah. So it's usually just more like my own made up noises and
Yeah,
singing to notes instead of what the actual um, sounds are you're supposed to make for a camp
yeah,
truck or whatever.
yeah. Well, that's cool that you do it though. Do you find that singing tunes, be it Pibrook or other kinds of tunes, is helpful when learning them?
Um, I think it can be to an extent. I've found myself several times where I'll hear a tune, I'll be listening to stuff on Spotify and get this tune stuck in my head, and I'll just get away singing with it. And when I finally get my hands on the music, it's like, oh man, that's not how it goes at all.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but no, I absolutely feel like if you can get to the point where you're singing the tune correctly in your mind, like playing it can fall in line so much easier.
Yeah. Do you have any piping tunes that like are a real standby for you? Whether it's a common march or anything like I'm thinking like, of course, we all have our aspirational list of tunes we want to learn. The hard drive and all those others,
Right,
um,
right.
and the high drive, of course, both drives. But are there any tunes that like you've been playing ever since you started and they are evergreen? You've never not loved those tunes.
Oh man, that's tough.
Because some of us we do get tired of some tunes sometimes, right? Like eventually it's like I don't want to play Scotland the Brave again,
Right.
but maybe some of them stay beautiful no matter how long you play them.
I can't say that I've got some that are just like, oh man, I love playing that tune. I think one that I find myself almost unconsciously going to often, especially when I'm tuning up, is Flowers of the Forest.
Mm.
Um, one and getting into bagpipe music, I didn't realize that had been associated with people that had passed on and what have you. I just thought it was a pretty song,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I always loved playing it, and yeah, I still like playing it just because it's a nice kind of melancholy tune and
yeah,
got a good. It, it's got a lot of things that you can have some fun with embellishments and different ways to express it on your own, and just it's a fun one to tune up. I mean, I say a fun one to tune up to. It's an easy one to tune up to make sure your drones are matching your chanter and
yeah.
those kind of things. So
It covers the range and gives you some nice long held notes, so you can kind of get the feel of where you're at, huh?
yeah, so depending on my mood, that's one that I like just kind of I don't even know what to call like kind of improvising with a little bit
Yeah,
when I'm warming up or something like that.
gotcha. Do you you mentioned that when you'd be listening to some music and kind of start singing it and then get a hold of the music. Do you have any favorite? Obviously Fred Morrison. Aside from Fred Morrison, any other favorite pipers or bagpipe bands that you like listening to?
Yeah. Oh man. So I love St. Lawrence or O'Toole. Um,
Yeah.
and stuff. Whether it was when uh, Terry was the pipe major, or now when Alan is the pipe major. Like, holy smokes, I love so many things that they've done. And I think a lot of it goes back to where they take these classic pipe tunes and then put their own spin on them.
Yeah.
But you can still hear that tune just shine through, and
Yeah.
it's
There's
I,
still that
I
string of
love
familiarity
that
in
kind
there.
of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, like you said, you get to the point where you're like, man, I can't hear that tune anymore, or I can't play that tune one more time. Like it's just so blah.
Yeah.
But then you hear that tune that used to be blah, and it's got these new, yeah, it's put into a new time signature, and it's got these new little runs up and down on it, or whatever the case is. And now it's like, oh man, I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say St. Lawrence O'Toole is they they've been one that I've fallen back on for several years now. I love listening to those guys. Um, as far as soloists, uh, so there are a couple that I can think of. Funny enough, one of them is Alistair Lee. Like I don't know how widely known he is yet, um,
I'm looking him up right now.
but
Did he play with the Red Hot Chili Pipers?
I
Or is
don't
that
know
maybe
honestly.
that was a
Yeah,
different Alistair?
I don't know enough about his history, to be honest. But I heard him solo at Winter Storm, the times that I was out there,
Yeah.
and I was just blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, like he is good. Like there's just something about. Of course, he executes well and tunes up well, but I think part of it too is just his stage presence, if you could call it that, in
Mm.
solo piping. Man, he was just a blast to listen to. So even if you can find some of his solo stuff on YouTube, um,
Yeah, I just googled him and
he's
some stuff from Winter Storm and otherwise popped up. So he's on there.
yeah. So once again, not really somebody that you could probably find on Spotify or whatnot, but just some of those clips that people will put up on YouTube. Um, Another one that I like, and well, I don't
If
know.
you're gonna say me, it's okay. You can say it.
I
You love hanging around those grade 3 solo competitions just for when old James steps up.
no, for real. I seriously love listening to solo competitions, solo or band competitions in almost any level. Um, but no, I have a hard time like really just naming any particular person. Like the problem is I know I can recognize a lot of people, um, but don't know them all by name.
Oh, no sweat, man. I'm in the same boat. I have embarrassed myself many times, not just in this podcast, also just in casual conversation. That like there are floating sets, performances, faces, tartans, etc. in one
Oh
half
yeah,
of my
yeah.
brain. Then on the other half of my brain, there is this floating cloud of different names of players, makers, and pipe bands. I'm not always quite clear of how they match up. It's like, yeah, that was SFU, or maybe Victoria Police, or maybe Vale of Athol, or maybe Bog Hall, or maybe like it's like, oh, okay, actually, I don't actually know anything about anything. Is often how I feel, but
Yeah. Oh no, I totally get that. And part of the problem is too, like I'll get on YouTube, for example. That's my go-to to find new music and new performers for me.
yeah,
Like I'll type in, say, Pbrook or Cantrick or something like that, and then just let it autoplay from there, and just have it go in the background while I'm doing work or something. And when something hits me, it's like, oh man, who is that? And I'll look it up, and it's like I have no clue who this person is.
yeah. So
I don't.
often it's so obscure, right? It's like, well,
Yeah, which is awesome. I love when that happens. But yeah, so I don't have a ton of just like go-to people. Like I have a bunch of go-to songs by lots of different people. So
Yeah,
like
sure, sure.
Lincoln Hilton's got some really cool stuff, but I
That
don't.
guy.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just constantly boiling with jealous rage when I think of Lincoln Hilton.
goodness, have you looked at some of the music he's composed, like the
It's
sheet music?
amazing.
Like,
It's
how do you
amazing.
even get your fingers to do that
I
stuff?
know.
But yeah, so I don't love all of his stuff, but there are a lot of things where it's like, man, I really like that.
Yeah, let
Um,
me be clear. Jealous rage because I admire him so
yeah,
much. you know.
of course. Well, and I was lucky enough to be on a group um, like teaching lesson like with him. Not I wasn't teaching. I was like he was teaching the group of us
Oh yeah.
just online. And man, he is just dang cool. Like just really
That's
down to
I think
earth.
that that's
Like
what it comes down to. I think that that's he is an amazing bagpiper. He's got a really cool personality. He's very handsome. It's like, well, how come he
he's
gets this fully stacked deck, you know? Lincoln, you can have two of these three things, but you can't have them all. Ah, he has
he's
them all. Dag nabbit.
he's got it going on. Yeah,
Yep.
which is awesome. Run with it, man.
Yep.
There's another guy. So I just pulled up my YouTube history here so I could tell you. There's another guy. This one might be a little obscure, but he's got a really cool set that I've listened to. Man, I don't even know how many hundreds of times probably. But his name is Griffin Hall, and he's got a set that he's got up on YouTube um, with some small pipes that
Oh
is
yeah.
just awesome. One of those
Oh
guys
yeah, I
again where
have
it's
seen some
like,
of this guy's stuff before.
yeah, and I couldn't even tell you what else he plays, but I love that set.
Actually,
Um,
I think I just barely came aware of him this Christmas. You know, because like some sort of algorithm brought up like a Christmas set that he had done on small pipes.
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then there's another guy that I've come across just recently on Facebook over in Scotland, Kyle Howie. Um, he's he's got a couple of his own compositions that are pretty fun, and then also has a couple arrangements, similar to what I was saying. I loved about what St. Lawrence Tool does. He's done this for a couple tunes as well, where he'll take some old, very well-known marches and turn it into a reel or a jig and make it his own thing, and it's just a blast. But
Mm.
he's got a lot of stuff. He does um, like a lot of the stuff he does on Facebook is all with his Blair chanter, or
Mm.
I guess he teaches like whistle lessons as well. But
Oh, I see.
um,
You can find him under Kyle Howie Piper.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's got some really cool stuff too.
Mm.
Once again, never met the guy, don't really know much about him, but one of those I just happened to come across where it's like, man, I really like this and that he's done.
Yeah.
How about yourself? Who are your go-tos?
Oh well, it sounds like a lot of the same people. You know, I idolize Fred Morrison and Timothy Cummings and of course SFU and Victoria Police and Simon Fraser. I do really like. I know that sometimes this gets poo-pooed on in our competitive piping community, but I love it when groups use bagpipes with like other genres.
Oh yeah.
There's a band called Wookiefoot that my friend Kevin introduced me to. That they've got a cool fusion thing going on anyway. It's like bluegrass and hip hop and bagpipes, and it's
What?
and aside from that, I'll be honest with you, Tyler. I'm I get a little wishy washy, hippy dippy when it comes to this kind of stuff, but I love. I get really into the poetry of their lyrics as well. Like it
Ah,
informs my worldview in some ways as well. But if you want to check them out, I would start with a track called "Only Visiting," or maybe
only
it's just
visiting.
visiting.
Man, I just looked them up on Google while you told me about them, and yeah, they're not somebody I'd expect to have bagpipes associated with
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
Only visiting.
yeah, or
All
actually,
right.
it's just visiting,
Oh,
just
just
visiting.
visiting,
Yeah,
just visiting. All right.
but they've got a bunch of other tunes with pipes in them, and like honestly, like there's a group called like Celtic Pink Floyd or Celtic Floyd or something like that,
Uh-huh.
and I know that like the music is a little bit cheesy and campy sometimes, but I like stuff like that. I get excited by stuff like that. I do like that. And honestly, I don't mind the Unipiper or the Sandpiper or the Snake Charmer or what any of these other ones. Like, I don't necessarily seek them out to listen to them, but I think it's fun to see the different ways people do stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if I had a better skill set with this, or maybe it's just um, a lack of practice, like I wish more than anything that I could easily transpose, other songs that I like onto a bagpipe scale.
Yeah, totally.
Um,
And
oh,
isn't that's part of the promise of or the at least the allure of the Lindsay system chanter, right?
exactly, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Hasn't worked out yet, but
Yeah.
um,
We're in the struggle together, man. Don't give up.
yeah. But yeah, so no, I'm in the same boat with you there. Although it's like, man, if you were to, tell this guy to execute, you know, this song a certain, like the Unipiper guy, like if you were to try to pick apart his playing, I mean, of course you could, but
Yeah,
that's
you
not
can't
really
think
the
about it too
point.
hard. Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah,
not the point. The point is just have fun, let it be what it is. Just take it very lightly as fun. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And actually, that's something that Fred Morrison talked about a lot in his like small piping class that I was in. He's like, here's the thing with small pipes, and I don't know if this is just his own personal view or if this is just kind of like, yeah, this is how small pipes are. But he's like, yeah, it's not so rigid. He's like, you play the embellishments as you feel them. Yeah, it's just a lot more open to
Mm.
interpretation, or at least in his philosophy of small piping that he expressed in that class. And I was like, oh, that's actually very cool, because
Yeah.
so you thing and setting in the solo setting where it's like you play it,
Yeah.
period,
Yeah.
period. But I love kind of think we'll kind of outside of that and apply it to different genres, like you said, or you just express it way than the right way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Not to say that it's bad to the pipe band setting, of course, is also amazing. And that absence and that commitment to having every single embellishment exactly the same. That's what made music amazing. But that doesn't have to be that kind of doesn't have to transfer to small piping, uilleann piping, other kinds of piping too. Like it's okay to have sort of it's kind of like you take the guitar, and it's like there are a lot of different genres in which you could apply the one way is wrong. It's just different.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And now, if you were no object, what would be your first purchase, whether or travel experience, like education, or an instrument within the piping? What would be your first thing if there's blank check? You can use it however you want.
Oh man, to piping and experience that way, you mean?
Yeah, related piping in some way.
Oh man, that's tough.
Because you have a whole list, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a whole room in the back of my mind full of like, man, one day.
Yep. Yep.
Um, oh,
Don't feel any pressure.
if
If you need
money's,
if you need a minute to think
that's,
about it, I can cut out the pause too. So don't
there's
feel any
so
pressure.
many, there's so many things.
Yeah. Now you're trying to
But
rank them, right? Like which one is it?
I know. Okay, okay. What would be first? However, I think it would be very cool to actually go to the National Piping Center in Scotland and like stay there and do one of their rounds of instruction on
Yeah,
whatever. I
a
mean, they have all
semester or a
sorts.
course or
Yeah,
whatever you
they
do.
have all sorts of courses that go on throughout the year, and I think it would just be cool to go there and do that.
Yeah.
Whatever the course is. In fact, they've got a small piping one that I would love to do.
Mm.
That I don't know how to pronounce her name. I don't know if it's Malin or Malin Lewis. Anyways, the class they teach on small piping that I think
Mm.
would be a blast. Um, that yeah, investing in like traveling somewhere and doing instruction, or like the Kerchis stuff that uh, Timothy Cummings is involved in over on the East Coast. I think it's like mainly
That's the
small
Vermont
piping. And
piping school, right?
yeah, I believe so. Like
Yeah.
I would love to go to something like that.
Did you know that they're doing some gatherings online now because of COVID?
I feel like I got an email about it, but I can't, just recently, but I
Dude,
don't
let
I don't
me
remember
let
the
me
details.
recommend checking it out. I joined them for I've joined them for two actually now, just in the last few months, and they've been a blast. And
Really?
Timothy himself is there to teach, and as well as other excellent instructors.
Oh man, yeah, I've absolutely got to look into it further then. Um, I think that would be the big thing. I feel like anytime I can stretch outside of my current circle of whether it's my personal knowledge or like other pipers that I'm with, anytime I can kind of stretch myself outside of that to different styles of playing or different levels of playing, I think it's you can't lose.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's kind
yeah,
of like it's such a small world. Like anything that offers you an expansion of that vision is very exhilarating.
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think that would be the main place I'd want to put money from a blank check is traveling to these educational experiences, and
Yeah.
just spending the time there, and you know, just getting to know other people in in the world that are involved in the similar type thing,
Yeah.
and of course increasing the skill set. I mean, plenty of things that I'd like to buy, but I mean, increasing the skill set is, in my mind, it's something that I'd value more.
Yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. If what by the way, I've kept you for an hour. Are you okay to talk a little bit more, or do you need to? Should we wrap it up?
No, I'm good to keep talking. It's my wife is working today. She works the weekends,
Oh,
and
gotcha.
so it's just me and the baby girl here. But she is sleeping right now, so I'm a free
Nice.
man.
Well then, let me ask you some more questions. What other than bagpiping and bagpipe stuff, what else takes up your time, energy, and focus in this world?
Oh man, um, a lot of it is work.
Yeah.
So work and trying to create something of my own, like as far as a business goes.
Yeah, let me see.
So
I feel like I was aware of you working in vehicle sales for a while.
yeah, I sold cars for a long time, and I've been in sales most of my adult life, and really love a lot of things about it.
I remember seeing that you'd like transport motorcycles back and forth, and like the best way to transport them was to drive them or something like that. Like you just
Yeah,
ended up
well,
going for rides.
I don't think that's always the case, but for whatever reason, because I worked at a car dealership, and every once in a while somebody will come in and they don't have money to put down, or they don't have a car to trade in, but hey, I've got this motorcycle. You guys take a motorcycle? And
And every time you were like,
most
"Yes, we will."
I know, like most people at a car dealership have no clue about motorcycles. It's just not what they know.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I mean, the Kelly Blue Book value says it's worth this, so we'll give you that. And that's kind of as far as it would go. But um, the group that I worked for, they had a dealership up in Cache Valley, and somebody's customer, it wasn't even my customer, one of my coworkers had somebody that was like really interested in buying this motorcycle that happened to be up in Cache Valley. um, so sometimes, depending on the dealership group, they can go to other dealership, like Larry H. Miller, for example. They can go to the one in Provo and grab the used car that's from the dealership up in Ogden, or
Right. Like a
sometimes,
shared inventory.
yeah, sometimes they'll collaborate that way. So they called up the dealership in Logan, and they're like, yeah, man, we're never going to sell this motorcycle up here. Come grab it. So nobody knew how to ride a motorcycle that was willing to go up there except for
Yeah.
me. So I was like, oh, dang it. No, I'll ride a motorcycle back. Sure. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And just posted a picture of it. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that
that's
wasn't your everyday life, unfortunately.
no, no, no. Most of it was out being that guy on the, at the car dealership chasing people down that drove in, and
Yeah.
hey, wait, hey, what brings you in?
Right.
So,
Well, hey, and don't feel like you have to. If you got stuff in the works and you don't feel like talking about it yet, but if you got anything to plug, feel free to do so. What kind of thing are you trying to build for yourself right now?
yeah. So right now, I'm building marketing a marketing business. It's actually called Review Alchemy.
Hmm.
Um, Basically, it's the goal of it is to help small businesses dominate their local like searches. So, for example, if you're looking for somebody in Payson that sells insurance, um, you'd likely go on Google and say, home insurance Payson, Utah, or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, my goal is to help whoever's in the insurance industry or whatever industry in that town, be the ones that show up in the top results.
Mm.
So I'm putting together like a website and a program there to help boost that. So
So that would be so you'd be doing like consulting for search engine optimization, and would you be
yeah,
designing websites and logos and stuff too, or is that less the
no, I've got
focus?
somebody I can outsource that to, but it's not
Sure.
really it's not something I know enough about.
Mm.
Um, and not something I really lean on at this point. But if somebody needed it, I could absolutely get them in the right hands.
Gotcha.
So that's the big thing. Otherwise, sales consulting is always the thing. And outside of that, just selling. I do a lot of contract work for selling, and then that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Do you feel like to any degree, like sales is is a professional field that, at least it seems to me, like I've dabbled in sales a little bit myself, but I was not good at it. I was always in trouble at the end of every month. But it seems to me that like it requires a unique kind of mental like rigor, like real. It's kind of like you've got to be in top physical performance shape in your brain to be successful with sales. Do you feel like there's anything in your sort of professional skill set that has translated to your piping, whether it's how you practice or how you approach a performance or anything like that?
Oh yeah, actually, because I definitely wouldn't say that I'm in like the top physical performance in my mind, like you said. I do believe there's a lot of truth to that, but man, that is that is like such a battle, day in and day out.
It's also an
Um,
emotional challenge, right? I mean, like a salesman has to smile even when they're dead inside.
right.
Like whatever is happening, you've got to put on the right face for your customer.
It's true, and that's kind of what I would say translates over to the competition side, the competition side of piping. Because for example, um, let's say you didn't sleep very well the night before, or you got food poisoning, or you're sick, or you're uh, intimidated by the other people you're competing against, or
Mm.
intimidated by the judge you're playing for, or
Or you just got some bad news about something that happened back home or something.
exactly, or it's too stinking hot outside to play the bagpipes, or
Hmm.
whatever the case is. Um, I think the part that I could say translates best is just knowing like, hey, you've just got to go through the process. Just stick to what you know, stick to the basics, and just follow the process as far as your warm up, your tuning, trying to get your best to get yourself in that headspace of playing that music, but just doing the things that you know how to do.
Mm, yeah.
And it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. It's never going to be perfect, but neither is anybody else you're playing against.
Yeah.
And you just gotta do your best, and hopefully your best was enough to get you the result you're looking for. And if not, you just keep practicing and trying to perfect it for next time, regardless of what the circumstances are.
I see. That's interesting. I feel like the image that comes to my mind is that like sort of classic scene you see in a movie or a TV show where somebody's working in a call center, which I recognize that is not all sales, of course. But when
Right,
like
right.
they're not being successful and the advice is stick to the script, just use that script. And maybe to some degree that's in piping, it's like, of course you can go from there and, go up into the higher echelons of sales, as it were. But if nothing else, you can stick to the script. And what is the script? I don't know, practicing regularly and
Yeah,
tuning
focusing
your
on,
tuning your pipe, stuff like that.
yeah, exactly. Making sure you maintain your instrument, making sure you're tuning, yeah, like you said, tuning properly, and then
Mm,
do your best to execute.
yeah, yeah. So and what else? Other hobbies and interests that you building model planes or collecting stamps?
No, no, not currently. That's
You have a baby. That's what you. That's the other
I
hobby,
know
right?
I've got a baby, and we're getting into a new house here in the next month or so,
Oh,
if
congrats.
everything goes right. So I've got plenty of other things occupying my mind right now aside from work and piping.
Yeah.
Nothing really exciting to speak to, but those are the big things right now.
Yeah. Do you have any family members or friends who like are such fans of your playing that like they'll actually request songs, like they know the titles of tunes that you play and they'll say play Pumpkin's Fancy for me or
Oh
something like that.
man, no, I don't.
They'll put
uh,
up with you, but maybe
the,
don't go looking for it, huh?
yeah, I'm appreciative enough that they're supportive, and it's okay that they don't request certain tunes or request certain things. I don't know if it's because they just would rather not egg me on, or if they
Play if
just
you
don't know the
must, but no
tunes.
more
Or
than you have to.
yeah, exactly. So I really try to like go out of my way to play in a place that's not going to disturb the same people over and over. So like I'll
Yeah.
try to find a park or something, and or random parking lot where it's somewhat secluded, at least from direct neighbors, and just play my heart out there because I'm not taking anybody off.
Yeah, I wonder how many of us pipers and probably drummers as well, maybe especially snare drummers, have like not just one place that we go to practice, but like a rotation of places so that we
Oh yeah,
don't even end up in the same park every time. So we just try to spread it out a little bit.
man, and it's such a mixed bag. I'm sure you've experienced it as well, where yeah, let's say you'll go to the same park a couple times, and there there sometimes will be a couple people that's like, oh man, I love it when you come out here.
Yeah.
Um, Most of the time you don't hear from anybody, but like when I play in my neighborhood, like there are a couple people that'll say, "Hey, oh man, we love the bagpipes, love hearing that." And then a lot of other times they'll be like, "Wow, those are sure loud, aren't they?"
That's yeah. As long
Like,
as
yeah,
you've
they
got
are.
nice neighbors, that's all the further it goes. But you know that there are a few other words that are lurking in the background when they
I
say
know.
something like that.
I know what you're really thinking, and yes, they are loud. That's why I wear earplugs.
Yeah, man. I recently refinished part of my shed that's behind my house to be an office space,
Uh-huh.
and so like it's a brick shed, and I thought to myself, all right, now it's framed on the inside. I'm going to put up insulation. I framed in the ceiling and put insulation over the top of that as well, thinking to myself like, temperature control, of course, but also now I will have a place where I can practice my pipes at all hours, and I'm not going to bother anybody.
Hmm.
And the other day I was, I had my earplugs in, of course, because like in that, it's a pretty small space. It's like 12 foot by 9 foot. I'm out here playing my pipes, and my wife texts me, and she's like, "Do I hear bagpipes, or am I going crazy? Like, is it just like phantom ringing in my
Oh yeah,
ears?"
yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm inside my shed, like door shut and everything. The house is physically separated from the shed. It's like a good, probably 18 feet at the very closest point. She's through the walls of the house and everything, and she's still hearing it. Man, I'm still bugging my neighbors. There is no escape."
There's no way around it.
Yeah.
It's just how it is.
Yeah. Well, do you have any kind of pre-performance ritual? Anything that helps you get in that mental space, or anything that's good for you to prep the night before? Like, what's kind of your thing? Whether you're getting called up for a funeral or you're going to a band competition, what would you do?
So in the last couple of years, I'd say the big thing. Well, I'll tell you what's changed because it used to be like, man, I would just try to listen to recordings of the tune I was about to play over and over and over, and like
Yeah.
either finger along to it on my leg, without a chanter, or with my practice chanter and not play along with it, or just try to hammer it in as hard as I could for the couple days or couple hours leading up to the competition. Um, and I think it would just psych me out, like
Mm,
in a bad way. It would just stress me out too much.
yeah.
Um, to where I wasn't really just focusing on like being there and hanging out with the band or being there and experiencing the games and everything that there is there, instead of just worrying so much about just playing this right, because it's just not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Um, Really, it's I feel like in the last couple of years it's just changed to like, okay, like I'll practice my guts out, um, leading up to it. I'll try to get my pipes out at least every other day, if not every day, during competition season, and play through my stuff and just try to improve on the small things that I can or that I notice. But then when the competition comes, it's like, all right, I'm not going to get anything any better than it has been at this point.
Yeah. You've
So
done what you're gonna do. So now just let it
yeah, like
happen.
the work's been done. Whether
Yeah.
it's whether it's been enough or good enough, time will tell. But it's been done. So really just try not to worry about it until the day of, and then it's like, all right, let's get some good sleep, let's get some good food, make sure I'm hydrated, and then get out there and try not to get too nervous.
Yeah. Because you gotta enjoy it, right? If you're not able to enjoy it, it's gonna be hard to stick with it for very long.
Yeah, it's like there's no, yeah, if you don't enjoy it, then what are you doing?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, just trying to not get too. I, I don't know if it's just nervous or worked up or whatever the case is, but I hate getting to the games and having that hurry up and wait. Hey, you're going on in 2 hours. It's like, what am I going to do for the next hour and 15 minutes or so,
Right. And when you're stressed,
Um,
it's like, well, then I'll get my pipes out right now and start tuning because I only have 2 hours.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I would say that's been the biggest thing for me, is just try to take a step back and do something else, think about something else, just relax as much as possible
Yeah.
until it's time to get my pipes out and tune up.
Oh, beautiful. And Tyler, how do you feel about pineapple on pizza?
It's got its place.
But is its place
That's
on pizza?
that depends on the pizza.
Oh, okay.
So if you're into pineapple on pizza, or even if you're on the fence, I suggest you go to Taboo Pizza in Ogden. And I wish I could remember the name of the pizza off the top of my head, but it's got jalapenos,
I got you. I'm
ham.
pulling up the menu right now.
Oh yeah, it's got like jalapenos, ham, pineapple on it. Oh my gosh.
I'm with you there. Like I haven't been to Taboo Pizza, but I do feel like the ultimate way to consume pineapple on pizza is along with jalapenos. When the two come together, that's where it's at.
Yeah, that place is incredible. Even if you don't get the pineapple on the pizza there, you should check them out when you're
Mhm.
in Ogden. They're definitely worthy of a stop. So yeah, I'm kind of in that camp. Yeah, I'm all right with it. I'm all right with it, and it's okay if people want to hate for it. It's all right, you know.
Yeah.
Eat what you like.
I think it's the Island Reaper. I'm looking at their menu
Ah,
right now.
yes, yep, that's it.
They got some good names on here. The Valhalla sounds delicious. All
The
right.
hot boy, the
I,
hot boy is also delicious. So give them a shot.
Sweet. Well, thank you, Tyler. I think that's probably about